Hello everyone, Ryan here. Replicas stars Keanu Reeves and a whole bunch of other people. Well, I mean, recognizable actors, but the names escape me. Oh yeah, I know Alice Eve plays his wife in this. So, Keanu Reeves plays William Foster, a neuroscientist, and he's pretty much like on the verge of transferring human consciousness into a computer. I mean, he's part of this, like, some kind of project where, he's told that it's going to benefit a lot of people, most notably soldiers who are wounded in battle. Of course, there's a scene where they actually bring in some technically deceased soldier, and they do this thing where they map out his brain or something, I believe in the movie they refer to it as neural network or map or something like that. And, essentially, they like make a copy of his brain, and they kind of like, I guess, what's the word? Digitize it, or I don't know. It's technically it's not like, they don't actually transfer the brain. They don't actually transfer consciousness. It's more like they make a duplicate of it, replica of it, and then just pretty much like download it into. And there's one thing they downloaded into this like robot. And granted, I guess you say pretty advanced looking robot, and then once they do that, they complete the process, and then they see, this robot is then controlled by, an actual human brain, or rather, a replica of an actual human brain. And unfortunately, I guess, they've, in the movie, they pretty much make it seem like they've done it more than a couple dozen times, I guess, probably even over 100 times or something like that. And so each time they did it, what ended up happening was, because it was, a replica of a human brain that was now in this, like, very sterile, cold-looking robotic body, and essentially, then that brain, or rather, I'm not really sure how to put it, but because they talk about like people, that they talk about the subject freaked out and ripped apart, started just ripping apart, the robot body that they were encased in or whatever, and because it's all about pretty much just the brain, the replication of the brain, replicating someone's memories, their entire history and whatnot. And so it's not really consciousness per se. I guess, yeah, you could say it's close to being the process of transferring consciousness. It's very close to that, but not exactly that. So, but anyway, so yeah, and the rest of the movie, Keanu Reeves, supposed to go on some boating trip with his family, and they end up crashing something happens, it's raining a lot and they swerve off the road, or it was just like rained so much that it was hard for him to see what side of the road he was driving on. And then this like semi truck comes out of nowhere and almost crashes right into them, so they swerve away. And then some tree gets struck by lightning, falls down, and goes through the windshield through his wife. And that's when he like kind of freaks out and swerves off the road, and they fall into some nearby lake or something. And unfortunately, his 3 children end up drowning. I would say pretty much if they didn't die right away during the crash, then they ended up drowning. And then of course, immediately, instead of like calling anyone, like, reporting it, or he decides that he's going to replicate his family, bring them all back. And then, with the help of his assistant, and then it turns out that his assistant was actually, I guess his assistant was more into the field of actual cloning biological things, mostly biological animals, like that he successfully cloned like rats and mice, guinea pigs, and I think even one time he was able to clone a monkey of some kind. And because they don't show all of that, it's just this entire movie focuses more on Keanu Reeves' character cloning his family. So essentially, his assistant helps him get his hands on everything he needs to create clones of his family. And then, of course, unfortunately, he's only able to bring back 3 of them. He's not able to bring back all of them. He like randomly picks which one he's not going to bring back, and ends up being his youngest daughter, named Zoe. And of course he's heartbroken about that, and but he goes through with it anyways, and he successfully clones his family, and which they don't get like really too deep into the details of everything, but it's still kind of interesting. I will say, like, I felt like there was elements of it that just felt like, were too rushed. Like, it was just kind of like, they didn't bother with too many details. It was just like, kind of like, I don't know who wrote this. I know supposedly Keanu Reeves himself, he was one of the producers, I believe. I'm not exactly sure if he helped with the script or not. But it just seemed like they left out certain details just because, like, I don't know, they wanted to be able to appeal to a much, I guess, broader audience. They didn't want to bother with too many scientific details and that kind of stuff, and which I guess I can kind of understand, especially when it's a movie like this that deals with cloning people and transferring consciousness, or rather, replicating consciousness, I guess, to a certain extent. But because of that, like, because they left out so many details, I felt like a lot of moments in this movie just came off as kind of cheesy. And it affected their performances too. I know before, like I said, that, I didn't believe there was any... I guess I still don't. Keanu Reeves, he gives a decent performance in this, but I would say it's not one of his best. But as I say, like, for me, I believe that's mostly because the story itself, was just unfortunately lacking too much, lacking too many details. Too many things that I felt would have been very important to a movie like this. I mean, if you're gonna have a movie that's about cloning people, I mean, hey, go all out with the scientific stuff. And hey, I don't know, maybe that's just me. It was all right, and then of course it has a happy ending. If anything else, I'd say this movie, it got me really thinking about not just the process of cloning, but also the fact that it's because it got me thinking about after I saw the whole thing, and I was like, okay, well, so technically his family is dead. His wife, his 3 kids, they're dead. And yes, he cloned them. He brought them back. And also made copies of their memories and all that, and transferred all that, so that essentially the clones, became, pretty much exactly like his family. But still, it still made me think, okay, they're technically not his family. They look like his wife. They look like his kids. And they have, the same personalities and all that, and memories and skills, I guess, and whatnot, interests and all that. And but technically, they're not his family. They're clones of his family. So it was so he didn't bring back his family. He didn't bring them back to life. All he did was clone them, insert their memories and all that into the clones, and voila, brand new family. I don't know. That's how I feel about it. I mean, it's one of those things that I guess I'd imagine not everyone thinks about. So, but I don't know, hey, who knows, maybe within the next couple decades or 50, 100 years, who knows, cloning could become very commonplace. So, I mean, if nothing else, I would expect that, cloning would, just at the very least help those who really need it, as far as with organ transplants and all that. And so yeah, or maybe I remember a while ago I read something about some doctors or scientists were working on cloning organs, like heart, liver, or spleen. And I'm not exactly sure if they perfected that yet. I'm not sure, but yeah, I don't want to go off on a tangent. But so overall, as far as rating is concerned, I would give this movie, I guess 7.5 at the bare minimum, 8, solid 8 at the most. Yeah, solid 8 out of 10. Even though, like I said, yeah, the story is lacking details, and certain scenes come off as just too cheesy, and it's okay. It's okay. I mean, I'm not, I do, however, feel like they could have done a whole lot better with it. But it's okay. It's, yeah, it was just, it's okay. So yeah, that pretty much does it for this review, my review of Replicas. Once again, I give it 8 out of 10. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. As always, till next time, don't forget to keep it real, keep on rocking, and peace.